No matter where you come from, no matter where you're going, here's a place where you can take comfort in the knowing that whether if you come to stay a while or just passing through, this door is open to you. Come and let's be silent. Come and share a hug. Come, let's pray together. Come, love and be loved. From the blissed out to the turned out, from the pampered to the abused, this door is open to you. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you. The God in you. Whether you're black or white, gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this door is open to you. If there's some kind of trouble or pain you're going through, know that you are not alone and someone cares for you. As an individualization of divine point of view, this door is open to you. This door is open. This door right here, this door is open for you.
Good morning. It's true. This door is open for you. We want to welcome each and every one of you here this morning to Unity of the Blue Ridge. And those of you that are in the building, I'm going to invite you to turn and to wave at our live streamers. And we've got some live streamers here today that actually get to turn and wave. We want to thank you for being here this morning. What a beautiful morning it is in Western North Carolina. And I know it's a beautiful morning wherever you are. We always like to begin our time together in prayer, and so I invite you to turn your awareness within as we open in prayer. We just take the opportunity to turn our awareness within and let go. We just let go of all that has come before, all that has brought us to this point. We let go in that spirit of gratitude and giving ourselves permission to fully arrive, to fully be here now. We greet this day with the eyes that can behold what we may call small things. We entertain an understanding of what it is to be in relationship with what we call small things in order to accomplish anything. And so this day we open our heart, we open our entire being to be the blessing that we already are. And for this time together, we're so truly grateful. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen. Thank you all for being here this morning. What a beautiful group that you are. We're so blessed to have our Sunday school program, our Reverends Gabby, Michael, and Barbara Ann Simone create beautiful space for our children. Some of them are in the back, some of them will be heading over. And we're creating something new. Now that COVID is beginning, we don't know what COVID is doing. So now that we're coming back, some people have come back and we're starting to have some Sunday school program. We're creating an opportunity for connection moments that we're calling mentor moments, where we're inviting all of you, whether you realize it or not. Do you know that you are a mentor for young people? That we are an intergenerational community. And so we're inviting you to share, to create an opportunity. There's a sign-up sheet in our bookstore, and Reverend Gabby can help you figure that out. But for example, we have a gentleman who used to be in the FBI. And so he took a few minutes one Sunday to talk to the kids. Now they think he's a superhero. We had another family who have a meditation practice that they introduced to the youth. So it can be a small moment, but you'd be surprised at how you're sharing something from your life, your passion, with our youth will truly help create those intergenerational moments. And so there's a sign-up sheet. I invite you to take advantage of that. So to our young people, we always tell them that we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divinity in you. Would you join me? We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divinity in you. We bless all of our young people, we bless our children wherever you are. If you've not yet sent your cell phone into the silence, turn it off or on airplane mode, we greatly appreciate that. That helps with our live stream. I also want to acknowledge that you'll see these little blue cards around. If you're here for the first time today, here in person for the first time, would you raise your hand and let us acknowledge you? We have a number of first-time people with us today. I want to acknowledge the front row, the Amen corner from my original ministry in Lawrence, Kansas, that are... It's always so special when we have individuals. Trina Sharks, you want to raise your hand? She did, for a number of years when I would speak, she would sign language so that people could see. She'd often come to me and say, if you're going to say any complicated words or long things, could you let me know ahead of time? I'm like, if I knew ahead of time, I'd be glad to. So we welcome each and every one of you. If you fill out one of these cards, that will allow you to get to receive our electronic newsletter if you'd like to do that. We welcome each and every one of you this morning. A big part of what we enjoy here is music. And we have this incredible band, Dave, Richard, and today we have with us Harry Jacobson, and then we have Peter and Joey. So, I asked Dave if he would kick us off today with one of his original songs. Would you welcome Dave Della Rosa?
Don't die young before, don't have to. There's gold inside you that longs to be found. Don't waste your time being less than you are. Seize all you can this time around. There's no promise of tomorrow, nor redemption for the things that go down. Make each step count, feel your toes in the sand. Seize all you can this time around. 'Cause this time around may be the last. Maybe no ripples from the stones that you cast. It's not what you've lost that matters, it's what you found. Seize all you can this time around. Choose the words you speak wisely. They pave every road you'll ever go down. Learn to respect this power you wield. Seize all you can this time around. 'Cause this time around may be the last. Maybe no ripples from the stones that you cast. It's not what you've lost that matters, it's what you found. Seize all you can this time. Seize all you can this time. Seize all you can this time around.
Thank you very much.
Seize all you can this time around. Come on up, Michael. We always like to enjoy an inspirational reading that I am always enjoy what the individual selects, and it's interesting how it always dovetails with what we're going to be sharing. Michael Sutherland and his wife, Sutherland.
Sutherland.
Yeah, what he said.
Come on now.
Sutherland.
Yes.
And his wife, Venice, are a beautiful part of our community. And he has shared a number of writings with me, and he shared something this week, and I said, Michael, you got to share this.
Well, I'm going to start off by saying that this is not originally mine. Okay, I pilfered this from a TV series back in the mid-'90s, and I have altered it to what it spoke to of me. Some of you may have remembered the TV series Babylon 5. You'll know immediately where this comes from if you have watched that TV series. The universe speaks in many languages, but only one voice. The language is not African or Spanish or German or Russian or English. The sound isn't man or woman or child, and it has no form. It speaks in the language of hope, the language of trust. It speaks in the language of strength and the language of compassion. It is the language of the heart and the language of the soul. But it is always the same voice, and that voice calls to us from beyond all we know. It is the voice of our ancestors speaking through us from the memories long past. It is the voice of our inheritors waiting to be born in the hopes that we will leave them something better. It is the small, still voice that says, "We are one," no matter our dreams or our beliefs. Whatever the blood in our veins or the skin covering our being. Whatever the world we live in, or despite the star above us that provides us life, we are one. No matter the losses we have suffered in the past, and despite the fear that sometimes overwhelms us, we are one. Here gathered in common cause, without a jaundiced eye, we agree to recognize this one singular truth and rule, that we must be kind to one another and let our grail shine forth for all to drink. Because each voice enriches us and enables us to become better than we once were. And each voice that is lost because of hatred or indifferences diminishes us. We are the voice of the universe, the soul of creation, and the fire that will light our way to a better future. We will stand between the darkness and those who wish to walk in all those lonely places no one likes to tread. We are one.
Thank you, Michael. Okay.
Every child is born in a new nativity. Every breaking dawn is a chance the world will see. From the highest to the humblest, we are carpenters and we are kings. We are only bound by strength of our dreams. Anyone can be the light of the world. Anyone can show the way. Everyone can be the hope of tomorrow. Anyone can be a hero today. And like the young bird who hasn't learned that he can fly. There are miracles you'll never know until you try. Maybe you can heal the dying, walk on water, change into wine. Or maybe it's a miracle, just changing your mind. Anyone can be the light of the world. Anyone can show the way. Everyone can be the hope of tomorrow. Anyone can be a hero today. Reach out your hand to your brother. Try to understand one another. Open your heart and the rest will follow. Anyone can be the light of the world. Anyone can show the way. Everyone can be the hope of tomorrow. Anyone can be a hero today. Anyone can be the light of the world. Anyone can show the way. Anyone can be the hope of tomorrow. Anyone can be a hero today. 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 A hero today.
Oh, Cat Williams, we are so blessed with this amazing band. They'll be back in a little bit. Would you show them your love again? Thank you so much for being here. Would you take this opportunity to stand and just to give your welcome to someone around you, a namaste greeting. We're still not just grabbing people and hugging them, but it's nice to look in the eyes and to make that connection. Those of you on live stream, we invite you to connect with someone here, connect with someone where you are, maybe your cat, maybe your pet, maybe your reflection. But we take this opportunity to connect. Thank you, and you may be seated. Anyone can be a hero. Anyone can be the light of the world. How many of you know that you are the light of the world? How many of you sometimes wonder, but how to do that exactly? Well, we're going to talk about that today. I had the pleasure many years ago when I was working with a company, I made a trip to Tempe, Arizona, which is not too far from the Grand Canyon. And so while I was that close, I definitely wanted to go and see the Grand Canyon. And as I was walking and a bunch of people were heading in a direction, I happened to notice a little sign that caught my attention, and it was kind of a small sign. But it said, "The law of gravity is strictly enforced here." And I thought, that will preach. Because the law of gravity is enforced all the time. It doesn't matter the person or the location. The law of gravity is enforced. And I think we would all agree there are times when it would behoove us, to use my grandmother's word, to remember the law of gravity when you're standing on the edge of just this huge, huge Grand Canyon. Well, there's another law, if you will, that is often overlooked. We forget it, disregard it, but it's always working. And that's what we want to talk about today in week 3 of a series when we're looking at the invitation. Invitations that are always available, and yet sometimes we forget them. And this particular law is called the law of little things. It's also known as the principle of mustard seed. When I was in Hawaii, I worked with a kumu. Her name was Kumu Karen, and she often said, the sum of a lot of little things is not a little thing. She understood the law of little things. Now, to me, that becomes incredibly important at times, just like the Grand Canyon. Yeah, it's time to remember this law of gravity that's always working. It's really important to remember the law of little things if you find yourself feeling overwhelmed. Anybody? If you look out at the state of the world, if you look at your social media, and if you feel, honestly, like it's all going to hell in a handbasket. It's good to remember this if you're facing and you're aware of all these things and you find yourself saying, is there anything I can possibly do that even matters? If you find yourself wanting to help, but honestly looking at what you feel like you can contribute in light of all that's going on in the world and just sort of wondering, does it even matter? Can you relate to any of those things? I think it's a good time for us to dust and polish the law of little things, the principle of the mustard seed. Now, this feeling of overwhelm, of, how do we come about this law of little things, so to speak? Let's go back to once upon a time. And I'll get specific. Once upon a time when the year was 515 BC. So it's safe to say a long time ago. 515 BC. History records this. This time and the setting for this audience was a perfect storm, a perfect blend of opportunity and challenge, disaster, overwhelm, and yet great hope. The task was enormous at the time, 515 BC, because what had happened, you may be familiar with what's called Solomon's Temple, the great prize, so to speak, for the Jewish community many years ago. It took 7 years to build this temple. People would come from foreign lands to see this temple. It was the home of God. It was the home of where the people, the children of Israel received their blessings, Solomon's temple. And if you know anything about it, you know that it was completely destroyed, decimated. And not only was it destroyed, but the people were taken in captivity. And so not only was it destroyed, but it had now, by the time 515 rolls around, it had been sitting there for 70 years. There's nothing but rubble and ruin, the whole town. But finally, the Hebrew people had been given, some of them had given permission, freed from exile, to go back and to rebuild their temple. 70 years it's been waiting. And so the story takes place where it's in Zechariah in the Old Testament. And Zechariah is actually called the prophet of hope. Because as the story says that the 50,000 men arrived, and when they looked at the plight before them, some of the men who had remembered what had once been there were just what dropped to their knees and wept because they were so happy to at least be back in that vicinity to be able to begin again. Most of the men didn't even know it before. But what everyone, no matter their relationship with it, what everyone could agree was the task before them seemed absolutely overwhelming. And it was so overwhelming that the work actually stopped for a while. And that's when Zechariah, the prophet of hope, began to talk to them. Now, in the telling of this story, if you read the story, there's some important things here. Because the high priest of the time, his name was Joshua. And even the high priest showed up in such a task, and the scripture says that he wore old rags, and he was supposed to have worn a clean robe. But that's very significant what that means symbolically. Symbolically, it tells us about how he felt about his role in light of what was being asked him to do. How he felt and how he showed up and how impossible he felt that it was. But the passage of scripture that's often quoted is this, when Zechariah said to the people, he said, "Why do you despise the day of small things? One day the small will no longer be small. There is great rejoicing in the small things." The prophet was saying small things can keep us from great things, or small things can create great things. That the only way to build a temple is one stone at a time. And that when you are placing a stone, you're not simply doing one little task, but what you are doing in that small moment actually carries huge purpose if you can connect it to that purpose. It also, if you look at Luke, the Gospel of Luke says, the one who cannot be trusted with little things cannot be trusted with great things. But the one who is faithful in the very little is also, and can also be trusted in the great things. So the sum of a lot of little things is not a little thing. Those people did go on and rebuild the temple, but they had to be reminded about the law of little things. It's also, as I said, called the mustard seed principle. You probably are familiar from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 13, when Jesus was talking about the kingdom of heaven, or like, what is the reality of God consciousness like? And Jesus said, well, it's like a mustard seed. It's like the tiniest of seed that carries the greatest potential. That with a small seed, great action can be born. I shared last week the story of the feeding of 5,000 with the loaves and the fishes. That's another example of how from small beginnings, it sparked crowdfunding, if you will. It sparked more than enough. There's also the story of the widow's mite. We may call it a penny. They were taking a collection, and the one woman who put in her little penny, and Jesus paused and said, she's put in the greatest offering of all. And they're like, she just put in a penny. But he realized that for her, it represented what she had to give. You see, she was consciously connected with what she had to give, and that's what made it the greatest gift. Jesus also used the story there's the story of David and of little David. He's the little brother. He's small in stature. He uses one little stone to bring down the giant. And so the law of little things is about how to harness the power of the small in order to bring forth the great. The key to the law of little things is also really in remembering that how you do anything is how you do everything. And that the little things are the doorways, the moments, the bite-sized pieces that get us going. But once you get going and you take the bite or you put yourself in motion, whatever the quality of that thing winds up being the quality of all things. And so it allows us, the thing about unity is practical spirituality. It's how do you put it into practice? I believe that's what the Buddha taught. The Buddha sought to help people be self-aware and self-express and to bring mindfulness to the little things. Jesus taught people love. God is love. And Jesus helped them in all the laws of the time. He was trying to help them make it practical. He reduced it and said, love your God, love your neighbor, love yourself. Reduce it to bite-sized pieces, and you will be fulfilling the whole law, is what he was trying to tell them. So today we want to bring it down and look at some of these things, the power of little things, the law of little things, and how to harness that. When I think about in my life what keeps me, because how many of you, if I just pause now, how many of you say, of course, that makes perfect sense? It's like Mother Teresa said that, we don't do great things. You can't do great things, but you can do small things with great love. And so therefore, the way that you do the small things is the way that you live out great love. We know that. But even though I know that, and even though you know it, I think sometimes we forget. And to me, the main reason we forget is we just forget their importance. That we just say, oh, it's just a little thing, it won't matter. Or we're overwhelmed. Have you ever been so overwhelmed you literally just stood there with your eyes like, I don't even know where to begin. I'm going to go eat ice cream or something. Some hands really went up with that one. There's an amen in that one somewhere. That sometimes we just feel so overwhelmed, and it's like what I have to give in light of what's up here or what I can accomplish, we just literally in the overwhelm. And then there's ignoring them because we're chasing the grandiose. If you think about it, we live in a culture of supersize meals, extreme makeover, groundbreaking news, ginormous events, once in a lifetime, over the top. But as Frank Clark said, everybody's trying to accomplish something big, not realizing that life is made up of the little things. I mean, think about it. Would you rather have somebody who just really one time went all out and told you, I love you, one time, grandstand, or somebody that every day in the little things, in the gestures, continually say, I love you? We know these things, and yet we forget to harness the power of little things. One of the most beautiful examples and someone that I admire was a woman named Dorothy Day. If you grew up in Catholicism, and I did not, and so I learned about her later in life. But Dorothy Day was born in 1897. She lived until 1980. And she grew up, she was born in New York, moved to California. Her family was very religious, and she described herself early in her life as keeping God at arm's length. And the reason was this: she just had this real passion for social justice and equality. And she had a heart for the homeless and people being treated fairly. Slavery just broke her heart in the early 1900s. She asked her parents one day, she said, why are people ministering to the slaves rather than stopping slavery? She saw through it and asked those pointed questions, and it just left her to leave it all. She described herself younger in her life as a bohemian. She was kind of a wild person. She said she was a chain smoker, questioned God, but became quite involved in activism. And for her, she wound up in prison a few times. She had a child out of wedlock. She had an abortion. She had lots of things that people would say she was my kind of people or she was not my kind of people. You either related or you didn't. She was a very controversial figure. And so what happened to her, she wrote this. She said, unlike many people, including many saints who experienced conversion to God out of sorrow, I turned to God in joy. In her autobiography, she writes, no human creature could receive or contain so vast a flood of love and joy as I felt right after the birth of my child. With this came the need to worship and adore, to commune with nature and the One. It was through a whole love, both physical and spiritual, that I came to know God. She was drawn to Catholicism. She liked the procedures, the liturgy of that. But Catholicism, the Catholic Church, didn't know what to do with her. And she was trying to reconcile love of God with love of people, with love of justice. And her grappling with that, she did a masterful job. She co-founded what is called the Catholic Workers Movement, which is still active today. It's a passive faith-based movement for social change. She started what were called houses of hospitality, which inspired like Salvation Army and places like that. These are because of Dorothy Day. Back in the 60s and 70s, when many Roman Catholics stood against war, they were standing with Dorothy Day, and they were standing on the shoulders of what she did. And so she had accomplished so much as she was growing older in her life. People started saying, you need to be a saint. You should be a saint. And her great line, that what caught my attention about her is this. She said, don't call me a saint. I don't want to be dismissed that easily. Don't call me a saint. I don't want to be dismissed that easily. She said, when they call you a saint, it means basically that your efforts were not taken seriously. That what was accomplished happened by some supernatural cause and not anything the ordinary person should aspire to. What was accomplished step by step, by falling and getting up, action by action, choice by choice, one day at a time. So don't call me a saint. I don't want to be dismissed that easily. People say that Dorothy Day really captured the law of little things, because the sum of a lot of little things is no little thing. That she was able to leave a great legacy. She was able to ignite and bring about great change, not because she set out to do that, but because she did everything she did from that consciousness, from that place. That everything you do, that is the doorway. So let's look at a few things. How can we really make that practical? Well, to me, there's at least three things, and I'm going to go back to that first story that happened in rebuilding the temple, and I want to draw out three things. That it involves our being mindful, it involves our being in integrity, and it involves our being on purpose. Number one, being mindful. There's a saying in Hawaii that says, tiny is the flea, great is the irritation. Tiny is the flower, great is the fragrance. The thing about little things is to be mindful, because not only is it the little things that add up to accomplish the big things, it's also the little things that cause us to go in 1,000 directions, that cause us to undermine our own abilities, that cause us to squander, so to speak, our moments so often. It's, the scripture says, it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. And so to bring mindfulness to our moments, what are we doing with our little things? That's what the prophet represents, is it's that within us, it's the voice within us that is asking us. It's like, what are you doing? Are you making your moments count? And are you really conscious in the moments of what you're doing and why you're doing? And to realize that every moment does count. Someone asked the Dalai Lama one time, you're the Dalai Lama, but I'm just me. And what can I do? I'm so small. He said, then apparently you have never spent the night with a mosquito. He said, anyone who has ever slept with a mosquito knows that a small thing can be a great force to contend with. To realize those little things. Dr. Shiny Matthews, she's the principal of a school in India. And in this particular school, with the children in India, many of these children come from places and homes where they feel like, they would feel like, what can we do? We're just little kids. Who cares about us? And she found that a lot of the teachers and the people working with them were sort of having that same mindset. And so Dr. Shiny Matthews wrote this, and I'll read this to you, but she encouraged something that she created something she called encourage the littles. That we're all here to encourage the littles, to encourage the little ones, to encourage our small efforts, to put all of our courage into whatever we're doing. She said, little stones make big mountains. Little steps can cover miles. Little acts of loving kindness give the world its biggest smiles. Little words can soothe big troubles. Little hugs can dry big tears. Little dreams can lead to greatness. Little candles can light up the darkness and even brighten our world. Greatness emerges when we encourage the little things. Encourage the littles. And so the first begins with mindfulness, to have a practice of mindfulness, to realize that it's through our moments that are creating our days, and it's our days that are creating our life and our legacy. And so what in this moment What when I'm facing this giant undertaking, to just take that deep breath and take the next step, whatever you can do. Be mindful. The second is to be integral. You see, I believe that that's what's represented when the high priest showed up in rags. And it said an angel encountered and ministered to the high priest, because the high priest was really feeling unworthy of the task. Reminded me when I was training in ministerial school and I was working in a hospital. Part of my training was doing an intensive in a big hospital in Kansas City, because we needed to go through hospital chaplain training as part of ministry. And honestly, there were days, many days, that I had much rather have been the janitor than the chaplain. Because when you're dressed in that, people see you as the one between them and God. Now, I don't see that, but I had to understand that some people do. People believe that you may have the answer as to why is my mother or my child dying. And I found myself just struggling with that. And so I can kind of feel like that priest. It's like, hey, I'm going to show up in rags and just hope nobody asks me how in the world we're going to do this. And so the priest showing up in rags tells us to bring mindfulness to when are we out of integrity? Not out of integrity in a way to shame us, but just to say, you do have what it takes. Whatever is yours to do, you have what it takes. To be willing to show up. And so it said the angel appeared to him and said, take off the dirty rags and put on a clean robe. You have what it takes. To show up in integrity, you have what it takes. Just a few years ago, there was a lot of hoopla about the quarterback for the, I want to say the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott. It's not my team, but that's not the point. But this caught my attention because this quarterback, who was very skilled and talented and doing really good things from what I understand, but when he went and he sat down on the bench when the defense went out to play and he went and sat on the bench, you know how they always hand them those little cups of Gatorade. Well, he downed one of those cups of Gatorade, squashed it, and threw it, and he happened to be on camera. And when he threw it, it didn't hit the trash can, it bounced back out. But he got up. Now, in a stadium, when there's a game going on, there are so many workers. There's workers, especially supporting the team. There was somebody there to pick up the trash. There's people to do that stuff. But he, the quarterback, got up, went over, picked it up, threw it down. That little bit caught on camera. If you Google that man's name with all of his stats, that's the first thing that's going to come up. And what people said is that said more about his character than anything else he did. It is the little things. It's the little things that mean so much. There's another true story to me that is very powerful about bringing integrity to the little things. Years ago, there was a man from the Midwest. His name was Robert James. He was a hemp farmer, a slave owner, and a self-appointed Baptist preacher. And it said that he drew big crowds because he was very passionate and fiery, and he was very good with his words. And people would almost be spellbound by him. And yet there was some things out of integrity in his life. He was a slave owner. And there's a story that he wrote about in his journal where one day a stray dog came up to their house, and his boys had been wanting a dog. And so this stray dog came up and was hanging around, and finally his boys said, Dad, can we have this dog? And they said, yeah. He said, you can have him. And so he said, he's yours. But then one day when Robert was in town, he saw this sign that said, lost. Described it perfectly. It was a black dog with just a few white hairs over one of his hind legs. He knew that had to be the dog. But he decided he was not going to do anything about it, except he went home and he put some shoe polish on those white hairs. Well, a few days later, he got a knock on the door, and it was a new neighbor who had just moved in, the farm next door, and the neighbor had walked over and said, hey, I heard my dog may be here. And all of a sudden, the dog ran. He's like, my dog, my dog. And Robert said, wait a minute, that's our dog. And his two boys, he had two sons who were standing there listening. Now, the sons knew they had found the dog, and the sons also knew they had covered the white hairs with shoe polish. And the man said, well, it looks just like my dog, except, yeah, my dog has white hair. And so Robert, with his way with words, began to argue and outsmarted the man, and the man had to leave. And what he wrote in his journal later, he said, that day, I got the dog, but I lost my 2 sons. And Robert James is the father of Jesse James and brother Frank James. And they went on to say that how seeing people being out of integrity in the little things led them to realize, well, what does it matter in anything? And that's a powerful story, but it makes to me an incredible point. Richard, would you give me the song? The power of little things. It's in our mindfulness, bringing mindfulness to the little things, to me is exciting because I'm this weird blend of big picture detailed. That is a recipe, and add some perfectionism. That's a recipe for Lord have mercy. That you can see the big picture, but also realize all the details. And you want to do it right. And so it can be easy to get stuck. And I have really had to learn and work with and breathe into the law of little things. I have to teach myself, okay, Darlene, that's good. Just smile at it and say, what bite-sized piece can I take? Otherwise, I'll wind up in paralysis. What bite-sized piece? I think our world right now is telling you, just take the bite-sized pieces, but don't grow weary, don't grow up. Don't give up. You're building a temple of light. Every day you're building a temple of light. And our world needs your temple of light. Keep showing up and tending to the small things. One final true story I want to share with you. This story is told from Barbara Glantz. She's a speaker and an author. And a number of years ago, she was doing a big presentation for a large grocery store chain with over 3,000 people. And she was really a motivational speaker to all those employees for a grocery store chain. And she told each and every one of them, you are here to make a difference. You can make a difference. It doesn't have to be a grandstand, but you are here to make a difference. Do what you can. Do the small things to make a difference. And as she ended that day, she said, if any of you have any great stories or anything that comes out of this, I'd love to hear about it. She said about a month later, she got a call from a young man named Johnny. And he said, Barbara, I heard what you had to say, but I'm just a bagger and I have Down syndrome and I never thought I could make a difference. But I told my dad what you had to say and we decided I could make a difference. He said, I love sayings, that every day I like to cut out sayings. And so my dad helped me and we decided what I would do is every day I would find a saying and my dad would print a bunch of them and I cut them out and I folded them. And so when I went to work and I bagged the groceries and people left, I said, my name is Johnny and here's my saying for today. And she said, Johnny, I think that's a beautiful idea. Well, a few weeks later, she got another call from the store manager. He said, Barbara, you're not going to believe what happened at our store. I noticed that one line was 3 times longer than the other. And I tried to get the customers to move, and they're like, no, we want Johnny's saying. He's like, do we have a new product that I'm not aware of? And he said, and as a matter of fact, there was one lady who told me that she used to come once a week. Now she breaks it down to 2 trips a week so she can get 2 of Johnny's sayings. And so she said, so he told her, he said, so I rounded up everybody in that store and we just congratulated Johnny and we showed what he was doing. And they were all so happy. But he said, you're not going to believe it. What happened is then the woman who works in the floral department started taking her broken flowers and she wouldn't just discard the broken one. She'd cut it down to still be a flower and she'd find somebody and say, have a nice flower today. Have a beautiful day. She said the meat department got stickers of Snoopy, and they're putting Snoopy stickers on their customers' meat when they wrap it, and it just says, have a great day. It makes people smile. And they said, in fact, everybody in our store is finding creative ways to put their mark on their service. And here's a picture of Barbara and Johnny. They've since gone around and talked to many people and shared their story. And what the manager said is, I never ever realized the power of little things. How many of you this week are willing to create little opportunities? To bring mindfulness to your moments? How many of you are willing to notice, integrity is about the way that we do it. Integrity is being mindful of, why am I doing this? And am I doing the small things with the same amount of integrity I would do if they were the public things? Because that's what matters to yourself, to the temple that you're building right here. Now that last point, do it on purpose like Johnny did. Taking you back to that story in 5:15, when the people were all overwhelmed, the first thing that they were taught to do is to build an altar. You see, they knew something about altars that's forgotten today. An altar to them was for worship, but the root of the word worship is worthship. The altar was the place that you went to connect with what mattered most. The altar was your reminder for you to connect with what mattered most. And I love that from the story, because when we think about our small things, we get to bring mindfulness. We get to do it in a way that we feel proud, and it doesn't matter who sees or doesn't, because it builds our light body, our temple. And we get to do it because we're doing it on purpose, because it matters. That's where we're placing our value. So are you truly willing to engage the law of little things this week? I know I am. So let's anchor this in a time of prayer with this beautiful song by Karen Drucker. I breathe in and I breathe out, and I take in and I give out, and I let love and I let go. I release and I know. Yes, I breathe in and I breathe out, and I take in and I give out, and I let love and I let go. I release and I know. We know that there are no such thing as a little thing. For any endeavor, any task is a giving one's self in the doing. Whatever we call a small thing is a moment, a decision, a choice, an action. And it carries with it, it is clothed in the energy that we engage to carry it out. You see, you can't separate yourself from the rags or the robe. And so let your outer be a reflection of what you can bring to the moment. Each being is a temple of light. Each being is a complete temple of light. And part of the completion is to fully embody, is to awaken to all that you are. Because it can be there with you being completely unaware. And so as we bring our whole self to the little things, we unlock the great paradox of greatness. Because whatever you bring to anything, you bring to everything. That's what Jesus meant when he says, whatever you do unto the smallest of these, you've done it unto me. However you show up is however you show up. And so we literally allow the heaviness to lift. We're going to move out some energy collectively. We're going to move out some illusions that say, I can't because it's too big. We're going to move out some lies that say, you don't matter. We're going to move out some overwhelm because we have been broadcast the big, pitiful picture so long that we have forgotten the power and the beauty that's taking place in our midst. In the midst that was happening, and all back in 5:15 is when the voice of Spirit said that it's not by might and it's not by power, but it is by my Spirit. It is by and through the Spirit that you bring to this moment. It is by and through the Spirit that you bring to this that you may call a little thing. But if you bring a spirit that is whole and holy and is all that is, then you have just become the way for all that is. And so allow the little things to create openings that will allow you to show up as the way. And so we move out, we continue to move out as you let go of anything that has caused things to feel overwhelming, daunting, hopeless. We notice, we pay attention to the severity of what is before us. But we recognize greater is the Spirit that flows and operates through us than anything that is before us. And we know that through the law of little things. So I breathe in, and I will breathe out. Then I will take in, then I will give out, and I'll let love, and I'll let go. I will release, now I know. So I breathe in, and I breathe out, and I take in, and I give out, and I let love, and I let go, and I will release and know. I invite you to open your eyes. Wiggle your fingers and say, these little things, they've done some things. And now stand up. And you may remember this posture from last week. Open up. Open up. So I breathe in, and I breathe out, and I take in, and I give out. I let love, and I let love, and I let go. I release, and I know. One more time. I breathe in, and I breathe out. I take in, and I give out. I let love, I let love, I let it go. I release, and I know. know the law of little things. To turn to one person and say, I'm glad you came, but this was for me. I'm glad you came, but this was for me. While you're up, would you extend a heart connection to those that are joining us from wherever you are joining us? Blessing. If you're online right now in Africa, we got you. We love you. Good to see you all. Thank you so much. You may be seated. So, may you never see the law of gravity sign or lack of it, or the law of little things sign or lack of it, and pass up the opportunity to imbue every moment and make it a powerful, beautiful moment. I want to thank you for engaging your heart and engaging the law of little things. Kat's got another song for us. I want to let you know just a few things to highlight this week. We have the bookstore. It's really now a book nook, but it's becoming a welcome center. We're slowly opening things back up. Again, as I said earlier, with COVID, I started to say lifting, but now we don't know what it's doing. So we're doing what we can to be safe ourselves. But in that area, there are some sign-up sheets. Some of you have been asking, when are we going to have more ushers? When are we going to have this? When are we going to have that? So we have some opportunities that are opening up now. So take a look and see if something appeals to you. You think you may be interested, and someone will contact you to find more information about what you'd like to do. Also want to remind you and remind our live streamers, but all of you, in October, we're having our first ever and what I hope will be a first annual homecoming retreat where we locally celebrate and people from out of town. I hope you all can come back in October 7 through 9. So we're asking the local congregation if you could create a host home. We have a formalized way for doing that so we can offer as many host home spaces as available. All of that information is out on the foyer. And the one other thing, I want to invite up Reverend Christy Corna with our prayer chaplains, and Jennifer is going to come up, one of our board members. Reverend Christy is going to make an announcement about our prayer chaplains, and as she's coming up, I want to point out these two things that they're holding. Diane Swift, one of our prayer chaplains, if you'll turn that way, is holding a wooden box which symbolizes prayer. We are very much about prayer here. Back in the back table, you can place your prayer request in. We'll hold them in prayer. We also send them to Silent Unity. We're also about the practice of keeping this ministry available, which means that we keep things here, we keep our live stream available, and that requires your support, and we thank you for that. You've been fabulous. And so that blue box is an opportunity to leave your offering, or online, we do our best to make that simple. Reverend Christy is going to let you know a little bit about our prayer chaplains who are beginning to come back and be more available in our service.
Good morning, everyone. So first, it's been a strange 2 years, right? So one thing that I want you to know is that prayer is at the foundation of all that we do here. And I want you to know that our prayer chaplains have been behind the scenes holding the consciousness, the healing consciousness of this community, virtual community. Every time you send in a prayer request, it goes out to our prayer chaplains as well as our sacred prayer team and Silent Unity and our ministerial team, of course. And just want you to know that they are back. They're back offering in-person prayer, and I want to reintroduce them to you, those that are here today. So if our prayer chaplains can come up. We do have a slide, I think.
They couldn't all be here, but some are here today.
Right, yeah, they couldn't all be here, and I will share those names with you as well. You guys want to scrunch up if you can? Awesome, don't be shy. Okay, so we have Diane Swift here. We have Michael Wackerly. We have Reverend Barbara Ann Simone. We have Reverend Karen Patrick. And Megan Goshevsky is not here today. She's also one of our prayer chaplains. And Tom Zenker is not here today. He's also one of our prayer chaplains. And these fine beings are here to offer you in-person prayer, and they are available before service on Sundays between 10 and 10:30. Right now, meeting out on the patio because the kids got that space in there and they're getting ready for that. And then after the service, a prayer chaplain is available through the store and back in our community room for one-on-one prayer with you. So please take advantage of that. Let them love on you, pray with you, and watch your life change, because I wholly believe in the power of prayer, and these 5 beings are holding that consciousness and that space for you in body, mind, and heart. So thank you. Thank you, prayer chaplains.
Thank you, prayer chaplains, and thank you to our board.
Thank you.
We're going to invite you to get up on your feet as Kat shares this next song with us. You may recognize a song by Aaron McGawkin that says, "I'm going to stand for love."
I will stand for love. I will stand for love. 'Cause I know I can be strong for love. Yes, I know I can be strong for love. Peace. I will stand for peace. I will stand for peace. 'Cause I know I can be strong for peace. Yes, I know I can be strong for peace.
Play it, Richard. Yeah, play it, Dave.
I will
Stand for you.
stand for you. I will stand for you. I will stand for you. 'Cause I know I can be strong for you. Yes, I know I can be strong for you. I will stand for love.
Stand for love.
I will stand for love. 'Cause I know I can be strong for love. Yes, I know I can be strong for love. I will stand for love. I will stand for love. 'Cause I know I can be strong for love. Yes, I know I can be strong for love. That last line again. Yes, I know I can be strong for love.
small stand at a time. That's all it takes to stand for love. We have our youth back in here with us now, joining their parents. And so we close together with the prayer of protection by James Dillett Freeman that goes, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. May you have a beautiful week. Sing us out, Cap.
I will stay